All right, so let's just jump right in here. 13.5 billion years. That's how long it's been since the Big Bang.
It's almost impossible to even fathom a number that large.
It really is. And then you think, okay, our planet Earth formed 4.5 billion years ago.
Mm.
And then way, way down the line, like a tiny blip in all that time, Homo sapiens show up. Us.
A mere 200,000 years ago, a newcomer on the cosmic stage.
Makes it feel pretty small, doesn't it?
It certainly puts things into perspective.
So today we're diving into Sapiens, Yuval Noah Harari's A Brief History of Humankind. It's a mind-blowing look at, well, us and how we got here.
It's a sweeping exploration of the forces that have shaped humanity from our earliest origins to the present day, and even ventures into potential futures.
Right. And one of the first things Harari tackles is this idea that, we humans are special, somehow separate from the rest of the animal kingdom.
There's often this implicit assumption of human exceptionalism, the idea that we're somehow above or beyond the natural world.
But Harari brings us right back down to earth, literally. Genetically speaking, we're part of the great ape family, very closely related to chimpanzees. It's almost like we just branched off from them recently in evolutionary terms.
If you were to picture the entire history of life on Earth as a 24-hour clock, our split from chimpanzees would have occurred in the last few minutes.
Wow, that's a really powerful way to put it, just a few minutes ago, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, okay.
So we've got that shared ancestry, but there's one thing that seems to set us apart, right? Our big brains.
Yes, the human brain is disproportionately large compared to our body size, and it's a puzzle that has intrigued scientists for centuries. Why did we develop such large, complex brains?
Especially since for a couple of million years after we showed up, we weren't exactly doing anything extraordinary with them. No iPhones or internet back then.
Exactly. So the question is, what evolutionary pressures might have driven the development of such a metabolically expensive organ?
Harari throws out this theory, and I love this one, the gorging gene theory. The idea is that maybe our ancestors who had this tendency to eat more when food was available, they had an advantage.
During times of scarcity, those individuals who could store more calories as fat would be more likely to survive and reproduce, passing on their genes.
So like imagine early humans, and there's a feast of berries, or they managed to bring down a big animal. The ones who just kept eating, even when they were full, they had a better chance of making it through the next famine.
This tendency to consume more than immediately needed could have inadvertently fueled the development of larger brains, which require a significant amount of energy.
So maybe, just maybe, those late-night snack cravings are a leftover instinct from our ancient past. Makes you think, right?
It's a fascinating theory, although it's important to note that the evolution of the human brain is a complex process with multiple contributing factors. There's no single definitive answer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But regardless of how it happened, those big brains eventually led to something incredible. This ability to think in abstract ways, to imagine things that aren't physically present.
This capacity for abstract thought and symbolic representation marks a significant departure from the concrete sensory-based cognition of most other animals.
Right. Animals can communicate about things they see, hear, smell, like danger or food. But we can talk about the future, about possibilities, about things that don't even exist yet.
This ability to share complex ideas and create narratives is a cornerstone of what makes us human.
And I think this is the real game changer. The ability to believe in things we can't see or touch, to share those beliefs with others, and to act on them collectively. It's like this superpower.
Harari calls these shared beliefs imagined realities. These are things that exist not in the objective world, but in the collective minds of those who believe in them.
Think about money, for instance. Pieces of paper, metal coins, they have no inherent value, right? But because we all agree they represent something, they have this incredible power.
Money is a perfect example of an imagined reality. It's a system based on trust, a shared belief that these tokens hold value and can be exchanged for goods and services.
And this ability to create and believe in these imagined realities, it allowed us to cooperate on a scale never seen before in the animal kingdom. It's how we built civilizations, formed nations, created religions.
From small hunter-gatherer bands to sprawling empires, human societies are built on a foundation of shared beliefs and myths that bind us together and allow us to function as a collective.
Makes you wonder what else in our world that we take for granted is actually just an imagined reality.
It's a question worth pondering. What are the invisible structures, the shared beliefs that shape our perceptions and guide our behavior? Consider things like social hierarchies, political ideologies, even the concept of human rights.
Wow, so much of what we consider real might actually be based on these shared fictions. But before we get too deep into all that, let's go back in time, way back to our days as hunter-gatherers. For most of human history, that was our way of life.
For hundreds of thousands of years, Homo sapiens lived as nomadic foragers, relying on their knowledge of the natural world to sustain themselves.
And it's easy to romanticize that period, right? Picture it. Small bands of humans living in harmony with nature, no stress, no deadlines.
It's a tempting image, but Harari cautions against idealizing the hunter-gatherer lifestyle. While they undoubtedly possessed a deep understanding of their environment, their lives were also marked by challenges and hardships.
Right, it wasn't all idyllic campfires and leisurely berry picking. These were complex societies with their own social structures, beliefs, and conflicts.
And it's also important to remember that even as hunter-gatherers, humans had a significant impact on the environments they inhabited.
Harari even uses this term, human flood, to describe how our ancestors spread across the globe, often with dramatic consequences for the ecosystems they encountered.
There's compelling evidence linking the arrival of Homo sapiens in new regions with the extinction of megafauna, large animal species that had previously thrived.
Like the diprotodon in Australia, a massive wombat-like creature that vanished around the time humans arrived.
Or the giant moa birds of New Zealand, flightless giants that disappeared soon after humans colonized the islands.
And it wasn't just Australia and New Zealand. Similar patterns of megafauna extinctions coincide with the arrival of humans in North America, South America, Europe. It's pretty sobering to think about the impact we've had on the planet.
It challenges the notion that humans were once seamlessly integrated into the natural world. We've been shaping and altering our environments from our earliest days.
And then comes the biggest shift in human history, arguably the agricultural revolution. This is when we go from wandering nomads to settled farmers, cultivating crops and domesticating animals.
This transition marks a profound shift in the relationship between humans and the natural world, with long-lasting implications for our social structures, economies, and even our relationship with time itself.
I mean, it seems like such a clear step forward, right? Farming allows for food surplus, permanent settlements, the development of complex societies.
It's often presented as a straightforward progression from a primitive to a more advanced way of life. But Harari suggests a more nuanced perspective.
He throws out this incredibly intriguing idea. Maybe it wasn't us domesticating wheat, but wheat domesticating us.
Consider this. As humans began to modify the landscape, clearing forests and planting seeds, they inadvertently created ideal conditions for certain plants to thrive.
And wheat, with its ability to spread rapidly and produce abundant storable grains, was particularly well suited to these human-modified environments.
Over time, humans became increasingly reliant on these crops, leading to a more sedentary lifestyle centered around the cycles of planting and harvesting.
So it wasn't a conscious decision, like one day we just said, hey, let's become farmers. It was more of a gradual process of mutual dependence.
He cites the Natufian culture, which existed in the Levant around 12,000 years ago, as an example of this transition. They were settled hunter-gatherers who intensively harvested wild cereals.
So they were already on the path towards agriculture without fully embracing it. But wasn't farming ultimately a good thing? It led to, well, everything we have today, right? Cities, technology, art.
Not necessarily for everyone, at least not initially. Harari argues that for many individuals, the shift to agriculture actually resulted in a decline in quality of life.
Really? How so? I mean, we always hear about how agriculture led to civilization and progress.
While it did lay the groundwork for those developments, for many early farmers, life was actually harder, less secure, and potentially less healthy than for their hunter-gatherer ancestors.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Explain that one.
Think about diet. Hunter-gatherers had access to a wide variety of food sources, while farmers relied on a smaller number of staple crops, often leading to nutritional deficiencies.
Ah, that makes sense. Less variety, more vulnerability to famine if a single crop failed.
Precisely. And the labor involved in farming was often more intensive and backbreaking than foraging, leading to increased risk of injury and chronic health problems.
Plus, you have the rise of private property, social hierarchies, increased competition for resources, and conflict between groups. It's not the peaceful agrarian utopia we often imagine.
It highlights a crucial point that Harari emphasizes throughout the book. Historical progress is not a linear, straightforward narrative from worse to better. It often involves trade-offs and unforeseen consequences.
Right. What might seem like a positive development from one perspective can have negative repercussions from another. And one of the key outcomes of this agricultural revolution, according to Harari, is the emergence of what he calls imagined orders. Okay, this is a big one. Help us understand this concept.
Imagined orders are the shared myths, beliefs, and social structures that allow for the existence of large-scale human societies. They are not grounded in objective reality, but are collectively constructed and maintained through shared belief.
So not based on some natural law or inherent truth, but on what we as a group agree to believe.
Exactly. These imagined realities provide a framework for cooperation and social cohesion, enabling us to coordinate our actions and live together in large numbers.
Give us a concrete example.
Take Hammurabi's code, for instance. This ancient Babylonian law code explicitly states that the value of a human life depends on their social status and gender. This wasn't a reflection of some natural hierarchy, but a socially constructed system of beliefs about human worth.
So even ancient laws, which we tend to think of as these fixed objective rules, were actually built on these shared, agreed-upon ideas.
It underscores the profound influence of imagined orders in shaping our perceptions and behavior.
Makes you really question what else in our modern world is built on these foundations of shared belief.
It's an exercise worth undertaking. What are the things that we take for granted as real that might actually be products of our collective imagination? We've already discussed money, but think also about the concept of nations, the boundaries that divide us, the ideologies that shape our political systems.
It's a bit unsettling to realize how much of what we consider reality is actually a construct of our collective beliefs, but it's also incredibly insightful. And these imagined orders, they only become more powerful and complex with the rise of empires.
As human societies grew in size and complexity, so too did their imagined orders. Empires took these shared beliefs and scaled them up to encompass vast territories and diverse populations.
So empires, in a way, are like these giant amplified versions of the imagined orders that allowed for the formation of early human societies.
You could say that. Empires codified and institutionalized these shared beliefs, creating elaborate systems of governance, law, and social hierarchies that spanned continents.
And they often relied on military might and conquest to expand and maintain their control. It's easy to see empires as purely oppressive forces.
While conquest and violence are certainly part of the story, Harari argues that we need to look beyond this simplistic view. Empires also played a significant role in the spread of ideas, technology, and culture.
Almost like a cultural melting pot, in a way.
Exactly. The Roman Empire, for example, was undeniably built through conquest, but it also facilitated the exchange of knowledge and practices across a vast network of interconnected societies.
They left a lasting legacy in terms of law, language, architecture. And, as you mentioned, the mixing of cultures within empires often led to new innovations and ideas. It's a reminder that historical processes are rarely straightforward or purely good or bad.
They are complex and multifaceted, often with both positive and negative consequences that can be difficult to disentangle.
Absolutely. And one thing that must have been crucial for the rise and maintenance of these vast empires was writing. It's hard to imagine managing such large and complex societies without the ability to record and transmit information.
The development of writing was a transformative innovation, allowing for the codification of laws, the recording of history, the spread of religious doctrines, and the efficient administration of complex bureaucratic systems.
Imagine trying to run an empire based solely on oral communication and memory. It would be incredibly difficult to maintain control over distant territories or to ensure consistency in laws and policies.
Writing enabled a level of precision, standardization, and permanence in communication that was simply impossible in a purely oral culture.
And as writing systems became more sophisticated, it opened up entirely new possibilities for knowledge sharing and cultural exchange.
Think about the impact of the printing press, for instance. It made it possible to mass-produce written materials, leading to a dramatic increase in literacy and the spread of knowledge across wider segments of society.
It's amazing to consider how something that started as a way to track grain harvests in ancient Sumeria ended up having such a profound impact on human history.
It speaks to the unexpected and often far-reaching consequences of human innovation. We create tools for specific purposes, but those tools often end up shaping our world in ways we could never have imagined.
Absolutely, like this ripple effect, each new invention or discovery setting off a chain of events that can alter the course of history. And speaking of invention and discovery, Harari also explores the fascinating relationship between science and empire. two seemingly distinct domains that were, in fact, deeply intertwined.
While often presented as separate spheres, Harari argues that the rise of European empires and the development of modern science were mutually reinforcing processes.
It makes sense when you think about it. Empires needed new technologies and knowledge to expand and maintain their power, while scientific advancements often relied on the resources and support of powerful patrons.
European empires actively funded scientific expeditions and research, recognizing the practical benefits that scientific discoveries could bring in areas like navigation, medicine, and warfare.
They saw the tangible advantages that scientific knowledge could provide in consolidating and expanding their imperial power.
Think about James Cook's voyages to the Pacific. These were ostensibly scientific explorations, mapping unknown territories and studying natural phenomena.
But they were also deeply intertwined with the expansion of British imperial ambitions, leading to territorial claims and the establishment of new colonies.
The pursuit of knowledge and the pursuit of power were often intertwined, particularly during this period of rapid European expansion.
And it wasn't just these grand expeditions. Even seemingly mundane inventions played a crucial role in the success of empires.
Consider the development of canned food. This seemingly simple innovation allowed ships to remain at sea for much longer durations, extending the reach of naval power and facilitating colonial expansion.
Wow, I never thought about canned food in that context. It's like this unsung hero of empire building.
Ugh.
And of course, there's the discovery of how to prevent scurvy.
The realization that scurvy was caused by a deficiency in vitamin C and could be remedied by consuming citrus fruits was a major breakthrough for maritime travel and naval power.
Before that, long sea voyages were incredibly perilous. Imagine setting sail knowing that a significant portion of your crew might succumb to this debilitating disease.
It highlights how seemingly small scientific advances can have significant geopolitical consequences, shaping the balance of power between nations and influencing the course of global events.
It's incredible to think about how much of our history has been influenced by these interconnected forces of empire, science, and technology. And as all of this is happening, a new economic system is taking root: capitalism. This system, with its emphasis on growth, investment, and profit, would fundamentally reshape the global landscape.
Capitalism emerged as a dynamic and transformative economic system, driven by the reinvestment of profits and the accumulation of capital, leading to unprecedented levels of economic growth and innovation.
It's a complex system that's had a profound impact on the way we live and interact with the world. How does Harari explain its rise?
He uses a simple but effective analogy of a baker who wants to expand her business. To do so, she needs capital, so she goes to a bank and takes out a loan.
Okay, that's straightforward enough. But isn't that just borrowing money? How does that lead to this whole system of capitalism?
The key is that the bank doesn't necessarily have all the money it lends out in physical form. It creates credit, lending out money based on the belief that the baker will be successful and repay the loan with interest.
So it's based on this idea of future growth, this expectation that the baker's business will expand and generate more wealth than she initially borrowed.
Precisely. And this system of credit, based on trust and the expectation of future profits, is a fundamental principle of capitalism. It allows for economic expansion beyond the limitations of existing physical wealth.
It's like this self-perpetuating cycle. The belief in future growth drives investment, which leads to more innovation and production, which, in theory, generates more wealth and fuels further growth. It's a powerful engine for economic expansion. But I'm sensing there's a darker side to this as well.
Absolutely. As with any system, capitalism has its downsides. Harari points to the Dutch East India Company, the VOC, as a cautionary tale.
The VOC, weren't they like this massive corporation with its own army and navy?
They were granted extraordinary powers by the Dutch government, allowing them to wage wars, seize territories, and establish monopolies in the pursuit of profit.
And their actions had devastating consequences, particularly in Southeast Asia, where they ruthlessly exploited resources and local populations.
The VOC serves as a stark example of how the relentless pursuit of profit, unchecked by ethical considerations, can lead to immense suffering and exploitation.
It's a reminder that any economic system, no matter how beneficial it might be in some respects, needs to be guided by moral principles and a concern for the well-being of all involved. And as capitalism was taking hold, another major transformation was underway: the Industrial Revolution.
This period marked a profound shift in human history, characterized by the harnessing of new energy sources, the development of machine-based production, and unprecedented levels of economic output.
It all started with the steam engine, powered by coal. This invention unleashed a wave of innovation, powering factories, trains, ships, and fundamentally changing how we lived and worked.
The Industrial Revolution led to rapid urbanization as people flocked to cities in search of work. It also created new social classes, with factory owners and industrialists amassing wealth and power.
It was a period of immense change and upheaval, with both positive and negative consequences. On the one hand, it led to significant advances in technology, medicine, and overall standards of living. But it also brought challenges.
The Industrial Revolution also led to widespread pollution, social inequality, and exploitation of workers, highlighting the need for social reforms and ethical considerations to accompany technological advancements.
It's like this constant tension, trying to harness the power of innovation while mitigating its negative impacts. And alongside the Industrial Revolution and the growth of capitalism came the rise of consumerism.
As production increased and goods became more widely available, a new culture emerged, one that emphasized consumption as a key driver of economic growth and personal fulfillment.
For most of human history, people lived with scarcity. But the Industrial Revolution created a world of abundance, at least for some. And then you add in marketing and advertising, and suddenly everyone's being told they need to buy more stuff.
The focus shifted from meeting basic needs to acquiring new goods and experiences, often driven by a sense of social status or the promise of happiness through material possessions.
Harari uses a pretty stark example to illustrate the sometimes absurd nature of consumerism. He talks about the paradox of obesity in the developed world.
In a world where previous generations struggled to avoid starvation, we now face a crisis of overconsumption, with associated health problems like heart disease and diabetes.
Incredible, right? We're literally making ourselves sick by eating too much. And then, to add insult to injury, we spend even more money trying to lose weight, buying diet products, gym memberships, all to try and undo the damage caused by our overconsumption.
It's a striking illustration of how consumerism can create desires that are ultimately detrimental to our well-being, while simultaneously generating economic activity in the attempt to address those self-inflicted problems.
It's like this endless cycle. It makes you question whether happiness and fulfillment can truly be found in the constant pursuit of more stuff.
It's a fundamental question that many people are grappling with today, especially as we become increasingly aware of the environmental and social costs of our consumption patterns.
And this brings us to perhaps the most mind-bending part of Sapiens, Harari's exploration of what he calls the era of intelligent design. This is where things start to get really futuristic.
Harari argues that we are entering a new stage in human history, one in which we are moving beyond the constraints of natural selection and acquiring the ability to intentionally design and modify life itself.
Okay, so last time we were just starting to unpack this idea of intelligent design. It's such a huge concept. Where do we even begin?
We've talked about how, for billions of years, life on Earth has evolved through the process of natural selection, the survival and reproduction of organisms best adapted to their environments. But now, with advancements in fields like genetic engineering, we are gaining the ability to directly manipulate the genetic code of living beings, including ourselves.
It's a bit like we're becoming the architects of evolution. We're no longer just passively subject to the forces of natural selection. We're starting to take control of the process. And we're already seeing the early stages of this with genetically modified organisms, GMOs, right?
Genetically modified organisms represent a tangible manifestation of our growing ability to manipulate the building blocks of life. By altering the genes of plants and animals, we can enhance their characteristics, making them more resistant to disease, more productive, or even more nutritious.
It's already having a significant impact on agriculture, and the potential applications seem almost limitless. And Harari even talks about the possibility of bringing back extinct species, seriously, like in Jurassic Park.
The idea of de-extinction, while still in its early stages, is becoming increasingly plausible. Scientists have already successfully mapped the genome of the woolly mammoth, and there are ongoing efforts to use gene editing technologies to revive these extinct creatures.
It's both awe-inspiring and a little unsettling, isn't it? Imagine encountering a woolly mammoth in the flesh. It raises so many questions about our role in the natural world and the potential consequences of our actions.
It challenges our assumptions about the permanence of extinction and raises ethical considerations about our responsibility in manipulating ecosystems and reintroducing species that have been absent for millennia.
And this idea of intelligent design goes even further than just bringing back extinct creatures. Harari suggests that we might one day be able to engineer better humans. Okay, what does that even mean? better humans.
This is where the conversation enters ethically complex and potentially controversial territory. The concept of better humans could involve using genetic engineering to eliminate inherited diseases, enhance cognitive abilities, or even extend human lifespans.
Wow. It's a future that's both exhilarating and potentially terrifying. Imagine a world where parents could choose their children's traits, where intelligence, athleticism, even personality could be tailored to their desires.
It raises profound questions about human autonomy, diversity, and the very definition of what it means to be human. Who gets to decide what constitutes better, and what are the potential consequences of such interventions?
It's a topic that's ripe for debate, and one that we, as a society, need to carefully consider. And this brings us to another potentially transformative force: artificial intelligence, AI.
Artificial intelligence represents a rapidly advancing field with the potential to revolutionize countless aspects of our lives, from transportation and healthcare to communication and entertainment. But it also poses significant challenges and raises fundamental questions about the nature of intelligence and consciousness.
The idea of machines that can think and learn like humans, or even surpass our abilities, has long been a staple of science fiction. But now it's becoming increasingly clear that AI is not just a futuristic fantasy, it's a rapidly approaching reality.
The development of increasingly sophisticated algorithms and the availability of vast amounts of data have fueled significant advances in AI, leading to the creation of systems that can perform tasks once thought to be the exclusive domain of human intelligence.
We have self-driving cars, algorithms that can diagnose diseases, and even AI systems that can compose music and create art. And it's only the beginning. Harari suggests that we might one day be able to merge our minds with machines, creating a hybrid form of intelligence that surpasses anything we can currently imagine.
The prospect of mind-machine interfaces, of directly connecting our brains to computers, raises profound philosophical and ethical questions about the nature of consciousness, identity, and the future of human evolution.
It's mind-blowing to think about, really. Imagine being able to access the entire internet with your thoughts or uploading your consciousness to a computer, potentially achieving a form of digital immortality.
These possibilities, while still speculative, highlight the transformative potential of AI and its capacity to fundamentally alter our understanding of what it means to be human.
It's a future that's both exhilarating and daunting, full of potential benefits, but also fraught with risks. So, where do we go from here? What does the future hold for Homo sapiens? Harari doesn't offer any easy answers or definitive predictions. Instead, he leaves us with a powerful question.
He argues that the most crucial question we face is not what we will become, but what we want to become. We are at a unique point in human history, one in which we have unprecedented power to shape our own destiny.
We have the ability to engineer our biology, to create artificial intelligence that surpasses our own, to fundamentally alter the course of evolution. But that power comes with an immense responsibility.
We need to carefully consider the ethical implications of our actions and strive to create a future that benefits all of humanity and the planet as a whole.
It's a call for humility, for recognizing that we are not the ultimate goal of evolution, but rather one participant in a vast and interconnected web of life.
Harari's Sapiens is a powerful reminder that history is not merely a collection of past events. It is an ongoing process that we are all shaping through our actions and choices.
So as you go about your day, I encourage you to reflect on the incredible journey of Homo sapiens, from our humble origins as hunter-gatherers to our current position as the dominant species on Earth.
What lessons can we learn from our past? What choices can we make today to create a future that is both just and sustainable?
And if you're intrigued by these ideas and want to delve deeper, I highly recommend picking up a copy of Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. It's a book that will challenge your assumptions, expand your understanding, and perhaps even shift your perspective on what it means to be human.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep imagining the possibilities.
The story of humanity is still being written, and each of us has a role to play in shaping its next chapter.
We are all authors of the future.
Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.